Hi guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to do something very unusual. The 2016 election, if Donald Trump didn't convert in 2011 to the Republican Party, let's assume he stays a Democrat in this case and decides to run as a Democrat. Now, a few things would be different here. Obviously, Trump wouldn't have had his feud with Obama, but I also think Hillary Clinton would want to sit this election out. And I think it'd probably be something like the establishment would rally around Andrew Cuomo, who would have ran instead of Hillary, and you probably would have had Bernie run anyways, and you'd have Donald Trump. And I would say Trump would imagine that Trump would do very well, especially in communities where you wouldn't expect him to in this election. I think he would do very well in the black community in the primaries. He had a lot of, influence in the and support back when he was a Democrat in the establishment and even in the hip hop community, as well as he would win New York and California easily because of his star power. He'd probably defeat Cuomo in New York and become the anti-establishmentarian hero of the Democrats. He'd probably support a solar wall on the southern border, and he probably would have stayed pro abortion in this case, unfortunately, for what I believe, but also, the anti-establishment wing would have become a Democrat because he still would have railed against the establishment in both parties. And Jeb Bush would have been the Republican nominee. He would have spent money and become the Republican nominee, and this election would have been very, very unusual. Now, I'll fill out the map, and it could get very interesting because Donald Trump still has that blue-collar appeal that he's had, moderate, fiscally moderate appeal. Has his union appeal even stronger as he draws in some of the Republicans, as well as I still think he would rail against PC culture from a Democratic perspective, kind of the way certain Democrats have, and I think that would help him a lot in this election cycle. Now, we could fill out this map really on a state-by-state basis. I'm not doing leans in this map. I think Trump would carry all of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. I think he'd carry all of these blue states. And he'd also run as a center. He'd probably be like a more center approach. He probably would say, I kind of like the Obama era, but I would do this differently. Now, he'd take New York, and he would take the Rust Belt, even Ohio and Iowa, Minnesota, and I think he would take Indiana, too. Now, Virginia, I think that would go to Donald Trump in this case. Or you know what? Actually, the establishment would hate him. I think Bush would do well in the suburbs, actually. I think Bush would carry Virginia. I think that North Carolina would go to Bush, as well as South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Texas would go to Jeb. I think Illinois, obviously, would go to Donald Trump, as well as, well, I'll fill out some of these Appalachian states, because that's where Donald Trump has a big appeal base there. He wouldn't run too far to the left on social issues either. He'd rail against political correctness. And in the general election, he'd pivot back to the center. He'd be able to keep the Democrats on board and potentially add to his base in terms of the Republicans. I still think that the states like Utah would still reject him, and mainly because of his personal life. And out here, this areas would go for Bush, especially in the Dakotas. Although I think Nebraska's 2nd district would flip to Donald Trump because of his appeal base, and Kansas, Oklahoma would stay with Bush, as well as Alaska. So Bush already has 162. Now, the thing is Trump probably would not win Missouri. I think it could be closer. Actually, you know what? Give Indiana back to Bush. It would be very close, but I don't think Trump would pull it off fully. Arkansas would probably go to Bush. There's a lot of Democrats there, but I still think Arkansas would go to Bush. But I think West Virginia would flip to Donald Trump. Assuming he holds most of his same policy stances, West Virginia and possibly Kentucky, but Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, the margins would be closer, but I still think that Jeb would hold on. And a lot of people are going to say, well, why do you think West Virginia would flip, but Indiana wouldn't? Well, back in the 90s, West Virginia and Kentucky went to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton never won Indiana. Republicans, it was a major fluke for Obama to win it in 08 in the first place, so I think Republicans would hold on to Indiana in this case. I do think Jeb would do a lot better with Latinos, though. I don't think that he would be able to. I think he'd probably be to the left of Trump on immigration. That's probably not enough to get him there alone. But I do think that Jeb would carry Arizona, possibly Colorado and Nevada. I think these are the places where Trump didn't do so well compared to what a regular Republican would have done in 2016. And Trump does have his scandals in these places. So, as well as New Mexico. Because Jeb probably would run even with the Hispanic vote. And that's going to be troublesome for Donald Trump. But again, Trump will win Hawaii. He'll do also, Trump will probably get 90% of the black vote still in this case. So I think that would help him. And California, Oregon, and Washington would go to Donald Trump. And he would win 284 to 254. This is an election cycle that is very unusual. I might not be 100% accurate here, but that's just how I would see it going down if Trump stayed a Democrat all these years and still wanted to run for president. And I think Jeb would have been the nominee for the Republicans. So I think the map would be Donald Trump 284, Jeb Bush 254. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media and donate to my Patreon, links in description. And before you go, be sure to click on the screen for one of my other recent videos you may have missed. And thanks again for watching, guys. Red Eagle, out.